Even a country that has tragically known generations of conflict, Afghanistan is in the throes of yet another chaotic and desperate chapter, an incredible tragedy for its long-suffering people. Afghanistan is spinning out of control.
The UN Secretary General painting a grim picture of the scene unfolding in Afghanistan as the Taliban claims control over 60% of the country. We're joined now by a lawmaker who served on the ground in Afghanistan, Tennessee Republican Congressman and member of the House Armed Services Committee, Mark Green. Congressman, thank you for joining on this Saturday. A lot of news coming out of Afghanistan, things dwindling there at a rapid pace. First, your reaction, sir.
Well, it's heartbreaking, Chris. I mean, I had friends who died in Afghanistan, and to see it fall apart like this with the way that President Biden has chosen to withdraw our forces, it's not about whether to withdraw or not. It's about how you withdraw. Mike Pompeo assured me that President Trump was going to do a conditions-based withdrawal. This president has basically just said, everybody leave. And what happened in Bagram, we just left in the middle of the night, and it's created an abandonment feeling in the people in Afghanistan. And the Taliban now are basically routing them.
Congressman, you mentioned Secretary of State Pompeo earlier this week, before we saw just how lightning fast the Taliban would take control of the country. This is what Pompeo said earlier on Monday. Listen.
We spent 20 years building up the Afghan National Security Forces, providing them training, weapons, all the skill sets that they need to defend their own country. It's their time. Everyone knew that this day would come. Eventually, the Afghan security forces had to stand up to protect their own.
What is your reaction to that, now knowing what we've seen and what has not been standing up by the Afghan National Security Forces?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the way the current president, President Biden, is withdrawing. We didn't even tell the Afghans we were leaving Bagram Air Force Base. They just walked in and said, oh, wait, the Americans are gone. And that kind of disrespect clearly makes them think, oh, the Americans don't have our back. And when you communicate that to them in this kind of fight with the Taliban surprising us all, which could potentially be an intelligence failure that we need to dig into, their capability to synchronize attacks across the whole country, their choice is lay down arms and blend in, or, fight to the death. And many of these guys, unfortunately, are choosing the former.
When you say intelligence failures, are you talking about our assessment of the readiness of the Afghan security forces?
No, I mean our failure to understand the capability of the Taliban. And Joe Biden has to own this. Just a month ago, I think it was July, he said that the Afghans are not going to fall apart. And that's assumed based on an assessment of the capabilities of the Taliban. So either A, he wasn't listening to the intelligence community, or the intelligence community failed to paint the picture of the capabilities of the Taliban. And if that's the case, we need an oversight committee to find out what's going on. Why are we surprised with the speed? And this is quoting Kirby yesterday in his press conference. Why are we surprised with the speed of the Taliban's assault on the country? This should not shock the United States of America. And the fact that the president predicted that this wouldn't happen only a month ago is a failure. And Congress is going to need to do an oversight committee on this and dig into, was this an intelligence community failure, or did the president just choose to ignore what they were saying?
And now we have Marines on the ground. We have 3,000 back. We have 2,500 in Iraq after the lesson we learned with withdrawal in Iraq. Now 3,000 are going back in. Could this have been handled perhaps more appropriately?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a conditions-based withdrawal, this is probably the hardest thing to do in military parlance, is a relief in place. When one set of military guys turn over control to other military guys. Now, there's some of this has been progressing for years, as you quoted from Pompeo earlier, but you base all of the stages of that withdrawal on the conditions on the ground, not based on the calendar or the clock in this case. And that's the way Biden has done it. And that time-based versus conditions-based withdrawal is what's resulted in the Afghans feeling abandoned and losing the will to fight.
Congressman, our viewers may not know or remember you are a special operations flight surgeon with the Night Stalkers in Afghanistan. Thank you for your tour. In just 10 seconds we have left, are you taking it hard? I know a lot of veterans are.
Of course. I lost some very close friends there in Afghanistan. And so obviously this is, to think that we're now going to have to, I mean, the instability that will be created when Taliban runs that country, we're going to have to go back. They will harbor terrorists. This will play all over again, just like when Biden pulled out, Biden and Obama pulled us out of Iraq in 2011, resulted in ISIS. This is a record that's playing over again. Same leadership, same failure.
Congressman Mark Green, thank you for taking time. Thank you for your service, sir.